Jarla versus Bunnyhoppor is what we got coming up, though. It is a battle for first place. They're hunting down that advantage for being the top seed, and they are going against each other now. Both 8-4 records, both have sat at the top, both have been chasing neck and neck since the start, and really not much has changed from week one in terms of their positions. And so you see the protective priest down below. Bunnyhoppor has converted over now to the side as those priests in Age of Empires always did, as you showed up on their shores and they took all your units. I don't know if you ever played that game or recall that. The priest always dominated me. They just converted all your stuff, and you're like, well, that's priest, right?
They just took your 1-3 and turned it into a 20-20 and killed you with it?
Yes.
Okay.
So Warrior banned away from Bunnyhoppor on that side, and for Jarla, making a ton of sense to ban the Warrior away, I think, with priest and with Paladin in the lineup. You know you're protecting the Paladin. I'm sorry, you know you're protecting the priest, and you know that Paladin is going to be one of your strong suits. We've seen Jarla demonstrate, I think, some pretty extreme prowess with this deck so far, where it must be cold where he is right now.
It is certainly looking that way.
I have never seen him in headgear.
Nope. I don't know whether the heatings failed.
Dropping in Pachinki.
Bunny, on the other hand, is looking bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to tackle a scintillating game of Is My Opponent Dead This Time?
But it's from his perspective.
That's why I changed the name.
Well, the 3-card Monty aspect just isn't there anymore.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
You're not like, pick the right one. He's just like, oh, I hope I try.
No, because you still watch them play their turn, and then you get to wait and see if they play timeout or not.
Oh, okay. Okay. Or Equality or Shrink Ray. Yeah. Okay, we found it.
Yeah.
Full circle. I guess it's not full circle until I've mentioned that that Bunnyhopper's already done plenty of dropping and Pachinki.
Yeah. It's not full circle until you talk about how awkward Holy Wrath Paladin turn 7 is.
Ooh. Jarla's been the best at it. He really has.
I really want to make like an admirable talking points bingo card. That would make me happy.
You could make a soundboard for it too. Like, you know, people talk about, my job's not getting replaced by AI. Like, for talent, that's pretty paramountly true, exception being me.
Admirable soundboard. Push the damage! Turn 7 is hard.
Turn 7 Paladin.
Fino reckless aggression even though it was fatigue.
I'm sorry I messed that up.
I love that Fino got an interview, which is like, yeah, I just wanted to deal damage and hit my opponent in the face. You got paid off very hard there, my friend.
Move quickly.
Yeah, it's already a tough game for Jarla. What does each thing mean? I've been seeing this more and more. It makes me wonder if Wild Pyromancer should be in the deck. It's just a 3-2 every time.
You just play Bloodfen Raptor, because why not? Yeah. I love this, though. I think Pyromancer contesting a Light Warden is a lot more promising than Pyromancer contesting a Northshire Cleric, especially when you have Elven Archer in your hand as the follow-up.
Yeah, I'm curious how much that's playing into it. You know, the fact that he had Wild Pyromancer Subdue, obviously, is the thought that goes through your head.
Yep.
But how much does having a buff land on this Light Warden versus the Elven Archer come into effect as well? Like, you could get the buff from Bunnyhoppor sometimes. That would forego a 2-cost minion. Like, so many good things happen, I feel like, as a result of this Wild Pyromancer. And I know you've talked a lot about how holding these was a detriment to you for a long time with Holy Wrath Paladin.
Yeah, it was one of the things that really increased my win rate a lot, where generally the way I'll like learn a new deck is I'll play it by myself, I'll intuitively figure things out for a while, and I get pretty good by doing that. Then when I have that basis, because I always want to build my own opinions first, uninfluenced by other things, then when I feel like I have that baseline, I will start to like seek opinions like, who's the best player? Who should I talk to about this deck? Do that, watch them, and then that was kind of the big break point between what I was doing and what some of the best players were doing when I got to that point, was that they were way less greedy with their Pyromancer than I was.
I hope you like my invention.
Byron, you can see even in the face of trading opens up Northshire. I'm sorry, opens up Novice Engineer. Why couldn't I remember the name of that card?
No idea.
And for Bunny, that is already checked.
It sure is.
Do you really want to add a Wild Pyro to your Psychopomp pool here? It's not going to happen very often, but it will happen occasionally. Crystology and the natural draw of Elven Archer is what's coming to mind.
Yes. You're also looking at an Armet Psychopomp curve, so like any minion in your Psychopomp that reduces the chances of it being an Armet are sometimes relevant.
So that means the more you fight for board, the less tools that Jarla will have to check the Psychopomp.
Do you like to play with fire?
Extremely slow start here from Bunnyhoppor, but it's a slow start that's been accentuated by the way that Jarla's played it.
Well, now there's the question of how much board presence is necessary, because if Jarla goes for like Baleful Banker and Elven Archer here, the 2/2 in play is actually very relevant versus specifically Ahmet.
Even with a Subdue in hand?
Yeah, because you get to keep the 2/1 around.
One shot.
To keep the 2/1.
So you would subdue the Ahmet and trade the 2/2 over the Ahmet spot. Like, for instance...
Oh, sure, yeah, because the 2/2 would then become... I was like, what on earth is a 2/1 in that scenario?
So,
but
like,
after the trade, yeah.
Like with Psycho, we saw him battle, like, ultimately aggressive in this matchup with that.
It was
and
super
it worked.
cool.
It worked really well.
Yeah.
Like, Jarla's playing a different angle than the normal Holy Wrath Paladin. You have turned into, like, a bad mid-range deck.
Right. It is definitely very possible in this matchup to win without Holy Wrathing your opponent to 25. That is... 425, sorry. That is not the case in almost any other matchup in the game, apart from outright aggro, but there's an argument that says Priest is outright aggro, so...
I want to point out that in your original statement, you were also technically correct. Or you Holy Wrath them to 25 and often win despite it.
Sure, yeah. It is very possible to win the game without Holy Wrathing them to 25.
Quickly.
I see a dark future.
See what I mean?
I do.
That 2/1 in play partially contests what Psychopomp can bring back down.
I can see that. It also is -175 Divine Shield Lifesteal Rush thing over the course of the game, though. So that is always something that you have to consider.
Yeah. The point I'm trying to get at is it's hard.
Agreed.
It's very difficult.
Agreed. I'm sure that there are several people mocking you for that mere suggestion, and I think they are very silly to do so. I think it's very valid.
Trade, subdue.
What?
What if you trade, subdue?
Why do you want to do that?
That'd be a 1/1 Ahmet in play versus nothing.
Oh, I see. So it can't... you'd rather it was alive than dead sometimes?
For whatever reason, Holy Wrath Paladin makes me the most creative-minded player that I've ever become.
That one seems a bit more suspect. I think people can... I think people can rightly make fun of you for that one.
Come on! There's a 1/1 Ahmet! You have fun with your one-health minions, idiot.
Silence, Divine Spirit, Inner Fire hit you in the face.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, if you're just going to draw the nuts, yeah.
I mean, Bunnyhoppor, like, genuinely, if we're going to, like, consider that play, Bunnyhoppor has had a slow, awkward hand that kind of suggests that some of those cards are in his hand a lot of the time, so... But I don't want to genuinely consider that play.
The end begins.
One Ahmet, please. Nope. In results-oriented caster land, the Pyro did not make an impact, because the Light Warden was hit anyway. In the real world, that's nonsense.
Quickly. I must consider.
Yeah, Bunnyhoppor's kind of on the struggle bus this game.
Yeah, I mean, he does have one zombie, so I think that he's got his plan in mind. Let's keep Jarla occupied.
His bomb draws 4 as of right now, so he'll draw 3 cards after he draws the one on turn 7.
Well, admittedly, it does feel like that turn 7 showed up early for Jarla this game. Just an awkward turn 5. Like, what do you do?
Ah, the new turn 7. Turn 5.
No, it's priest turn 7 is what it is.
Right, yeah.
It's like the metric versus... I don't even know what you call the other one.
Imperial.
Is that what it's called?
Yep.
No wonder it's so bad.
Hooray! Bunny gets to deal some damage this turn.
Ooh. I like sizable minions.
I do too. Biggest minion, go face.
Yep.
I must
Take time for
consider-
posterity to not give things away. That is the tone they have set between the two of each other, and that is the tone they must continue.
Yeah. Like we've been having some fun with this one after our incredibly tense day. Like this match does matter. They are playing for first place in the division, which carries with it a seed through the playoff stages, which means you essentially get a free win through the start of the bracket. But it is also worth noting that these two players play with the utmost seriousness of at all times. They are two of the slowest, most considered Hearthstone players you will ever see. And so if you're expecting this one to go past fast, you are making a mistake, my friends.
Prismatic Lens. Right before the turn 7, adjust the cost, take the turn. I can see some arguments for clearing off some chip damage, but approaching the Bon Samdi turn specifically, I think you're pretty interested in finding some AoE.
Yes. So you would also have the opportunity to go like Consecration, Flash of Light this turn, not in that order, obviously, and then have Prismatic Lens timeout as his turn 7.
I wonder.
Could also Prismatic Lens now with the Flash of Light. That draws 3, takes him up to 8, which is possible. So he then has that maximizes his chances to go like timeout on 7 into a quality Consecrate or a quality, into Pyro Quality on turn 8.
Yep,
I think lines up against the like big Cleric board that will come down.
So there's two minor things that I think are encouraging the Prismatic Lens to me anyway. The first one is on your turn 7, there's 2 copies of True Silver in Jarla's deck. And so having True Silver timeout, a very valid turn. The second one is going to be...
Nice.
That was a nice draw, and I kind of lost my train of thought as I was
Sorry.
saying that.
True Silver was like the last thing you said.
Yeah, there was another point I had as follow-up to it. The Acolyte of Pain. The Acolyte of Pain in deck for the cost adjustment on 3 sometimes sets you up for like a 3/3/1 turn, like if you happen to draw Crystology. Like they're all minor things for Jarla, so it's optimization of like how clean the turn is that he's thinking about.
Yeah, I like the Flashlight Lens turn for sure. Bunny told you he was going to draw a 1-drop, turn 7, always happens.
I don't think that counts.
Dude, so I've called that out twice on Europe over the last 2 days, and it did not happen either time. Every single game in Americas, they drew a 1-drop on their Bonsandi turn. Every single game.
Right, Subtle. Now you know why you think that Europe is the better region. Because America's is unlucky. It's not that Europe's luckier.
Yeah. Hey, at least I got the Desert Spear earlier. I'll take that one.
Yeah,
That's my one for the day.
Gallon was nailing him too when he was on the desk.
It's just caster powers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I could harness that while playing, it'd be a very different story.
Yep. Go ahead, Admirable. The floor is yours.
Well, I've already set that floor. Like, I don't think he has an awkward turn 7. I think he's offset it with the way that he plays Prismatic Lens. Like, Jarla never launches the Prismatic Lens early unless it's the only thing he can do. He's always seeming like he's waiting like right until turn 6, or he's holding it until turn 7. Like, it's wonderful Paladin play that I feel like I've seen from Jarla.
Okay.
Oh, it's just so beautiful. Like, how many times have you seen this many options on turn 7? There you go. We got there. It's a tough turn for Paladin.
Let me think.
This doesn't burn, I don't think. Nope.
Just the Blood Mage.
Throw in the slow card draw as well. Oh, lovely.
Admirable as the guy, he spent 7 mana. Give that man an eyebrow.
In an extremely efficient way.
Yep.
Some people enjoy musicals, concerts, wine. For me,
Must consider.
it's Jarla Paladin turn 7 play.
Is someone injured?
What about you?
Thing that I enjoy? Is that the question?
Yeah, like you appreciate it for its fine quality.
Bunnyhoppor Shaman play. Or Bunnyhoppor Beast Hunter play in the last meta. Oh, that one got me. When people push the 1 and don't get punished for it.
Ooh.
Patron Warrior.
Is someone injured?
I swore you were going to go straight for Northshire Clerics drawing cards.
I mean, we already know for you it's Crystal Merchants drawing cards, if we're being real
Ooh.
about it. Yeah.
So you can see that Bunnyhoppor with a full grip is going to be threatening lethal every turn for the rest of the game. And so Jarla, having preserved as much as he has, is going to be paramount. He needs to manipulate the waves of pressure against him so that he's able to check it for the rest of the game. The Amet's down, and that's a big win.
Let me think.
Shrink Ray Pyro Lens. Or Shrink Ray Consecration Novice. Those are the options after the Shrink Ray.
Yeah, I like the Pyro Lens turn. Spends mana on spells, gets that Shivala nice and cheap.
Keeps a 3-1 in play.
Keeps a 3-1 in play.
So important.
Yeah.
It is truly difficult to explain how important that 3-1 is.
So Bunny sees his first big removal of the game. He's seen 1 timeout already, so he knows he has a Zephyrus and a Quality and a second timeout left to beat. Jarla has 7 cards remaining. That is not looking promising.
That sounds incredibly difficult. By the way, they can use the first Shivala.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm very worried for Bunny this game.
They can use both if they really want to.
Yeah, seriously.
If they clear your board and end up with 2 7/5s in play, you're dead.
It honestly, like, this is one of the few matchups where that dynamic truly exists, like a finality of resources.
Yep. It's because Priest draws cards at a pace that kind of keeps up with Paladin, so like both decks end up fatiguing it around the same time.
It also just doesn't generate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like almost every other deck in the game, even if they're like an aggressive deck or an aggressive mid-range deck, if you go all in to the point where you have no cards left and you play your Shivalas and your Holy Wraths don't work, they can just divert and they can just outstall your Shivalas, they can kill your Shivalas, they can do anything they want, and you end up losing the game. Priest is fatiguing themselves by the time that you get there anyway, and they just don't have tools from hand that can kill 7/5s on an empty board. So if you can create that scenario, that is just as much a win condition as blasting them in the face for 25 is.
I mean, Bunnyhoppor literally has 5 minions left. After this wave, There are 5 total minions in the deck. One of them is random from the Psychopomp. That's it.
A Tolvir, a Nephicet, a Psychopomp, plus a minion from the Psychopomp.
And an Injured Blade Master.
And then, well, and these 2 in hand, right? Did we include these or not in that statement?
I did not include those. Excuse me, 7.
Okay.
Your wish is my
Yeah, that's an easy Zephyrus if that's the case.
Yep, sounds right.
Move quickly.
Whoa, Zephyrus. Bruh,
What?
made us use the Shirvala.
What did you want him to give you?
I just wanted to nether and blow up the board. It's a cool animation.
He has 9 mana.
Touche. Touche.
Zephyrus smart, admirable dumb.
The game has been going on so long, I just assumed it was turn 10.
Jarla versus Bunnyhoppor, my friend.
Game 1.
Welcome to Rope World.
Zephyrus, you genius.
I wonder.
But, I mean, it's perfectly timed, right? Like, this is synced up very nicely to when we spent a lot of time talking about how you can just win the game with a tempo Shirvala that can't be answered. Well, guess what? Jarla's just kind of won the game with a tempo Shirvala that can't be answered.
Yeah, the only way to kill it is to have minions in play, or to have like Pyromancer and 5 spells.
All the things, yeah.
Yeah, good luck with that one. That second one's pretty tough.
Move quickly.
Hey, I got you, friend.
Stop bankering your Zephyrus, Jarla. Style on him. You won't.
No choice, you gotta move in.
Just dies to True Silver if he wants it to.
Yep. Jarla knows.
He gets most of that back from the Shirvala heal anyway. He has a
Jarla
flash of
knows,
light in
yeah.
hand.
I hope you like my
It is
invention.
incredibly solvable from his perspective.
Oh yeah, 2 True Silvers this week? I hadn't even noticed that.
Yes. Jarla's been, I think, one of the most 2 True Silver gamers.
Has he really?
He's brought it, I think, almost all but like maybe 2 weeks.
I thought it was just Pavel in Europe, but I'm willing to be wrong on that. I did get confused with my
Let
1 week
me
excursion over to the Americas.
I actually think it was last week they didn't bring them.
Okay, right,
I
sure.
don't recall exactly, but there's been like a couple of weeks where he didn't bring 2.
Okay.
Move quickly.
Gonna use the equality instead. Save the 14. It's not even really 14 that he's saving though, is it? Yeah, whatever.
Let's stash that.
Oh, it's the Shirvala that he's saving.
He killed a 14-14.
Yeah, it's the Shirvala you saved.
I mean, he could have just done that first, played his True Silver. Like, he can just have it shuffled in his deck either way, right?
Well, I mean, in play.
Oh, sure. Yeah, in play is a good thing.
Yeah, checks the Amen.
Yep.
begin.
Ooh. Exciting.
Well, that's a way to kill a Shirvala.
It is.
That does seem like it makes things awkward. But down in Divine Spirit, I guess it changes that dynamic even.
Yes.
Okay.
Jarla at 30, 1 Divine Spirit down for Bunnyhoppor, 1 Inner Fire used. More spells will have to be used here to blow up the 7-1. Those spells are most likely buff cards that Bunnyhoppor wants to hold on to. Just so happens that he does have the Silence to use. And like, even if Holy Wrath doesn't immediately end the game, like, Jarla just has the same position again later with the next Shirvala. Just come down, clear the board, kill a minion, 7-5 on board uncontested. You said it, Jarla knows, you just don't need to combo them in this matchup.
It is known.
If you haven't lost the game of Do I Die this turn up until this point, it is pretty smooth sailing.
Yeah. Take your pick. An Injured Blade Master and a Nephicet Ritualist after these 2. very surprised that he flung that at FaZe.
I am too, but it was certainly funny.
Oh, goodness. I want to remind you that the most popular clip of any Grandmasters can net you 20 Saviors of Ul'dahn packs.
Ah, peak Hearthstone.
It just rips. It's so unnecessary. Like,
Yeah.
he has won the game at that point. He dominated the board
Right,
position,
right.
and that's the goal.
It,
And
like,
I'm
it's-
telling you, he executes it so beautifully when he plays.
He does. It's been my 2 points of reference for Holy Wrath Paladin, respectively for Europe and Americas. I'm sorry I don't get to watch a lot of APAC. If there's a sick Holy Wrath Paladin player over there, let me know. But it's Jarla in Europe and it's Firebat in Americas. Those have been the two that I've really enjoyed watching play the deck. They've seen all the creative lines. They've finessed their way through certain positions that were incredible. From Purple's perspective, he probably played the best individual game of Holy Wrath Paladin that I've seen. Subdue Your Own Shivala, the plays.
Juicy.
But just overall, I think those are the two players that have been tested the most. They've been put in difficult positions, and they've navigated their way through them the best.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out there to also Eddie and Frozen in that regard, who I think are two fantastic combo players. Eddie has been bringing a different variant of Holy Wrath Paladin, which Firebat, I believe, adopted this week as well.
Yep.
And for Frozen, he has always been a magnificent combo player. So I want to give shout outs to where shout outs are due.
No
I
arguments
love
there.
the combo players because they are some of the most creative ones that are in the game.
Yes. They've just got that mischievous spirit at heart, or it's just like, I want to do something silly that blows up my opponent and makes them really angry. And I definitely vibe with that. That's just what I love doing in card games as well.
Keep doing you, combo players. I love to see it. We got to go to a quick break, but when we come back, we'll be jumping into game number 2. Jarla has a 1-0 lead over Bunnyhoppor. We're going to find out who takes first place in the division after the break.
Welcome to this edition of Around the Fern with TJ and Just Saying.
Happy to be here.
Glad to hear it. So I've talked to this about you before. I've never heard you exclaim. So we have an hour in this room, and my goal is going to be to get you to exclaim.
That's just not going to happen.
It is going to happen. Imagine you're walking down the street. You just got lunch. It's a delicious burrito. You're hungry. You haven't eaten in 2 days. Then some guy walks up on the street, punches you in the face, and steals your burrito. You're out of money. You don't have cash. You didn't drive there. You walked there an hour. And now this guy comes up and punches you and steals your burrito. How do you react?
I don't even like burritos. I thank the guy and say, whatever. I was waiting for
What's your
Uber Eats
favorite food?
anyway. I mean, it has to be something with rice, but like, I kind of like risotto. The Italian style is very nice.
Italian style risotto. Now imagine you're walking down the street, you get your Italian risotto, and then a guy comes up to you, punches you in the face, and steals your risotto. What do you do?
Actually, I just
Do you yell? Do you
I
scream?
get confused. I'm mad,
You're mad, so you
But-
want to yell.
but then I think this guy probably needs it more than me. I don't think it's physically
Let's say you're in a
possible for me.
giant field and you're strapped to a chair. The only person that can save you is 1,000 yards away. If you don't yell to them to communicate to them, you're going to sit in that chair forever because that's the only other person on earth. Do you yell to them to save your life?
I mean, if he's the only other person on earth, do I like this guy? Are we friends even?
He's blind.
I just admit that this is the end. Last person on earth. I don't know about, like, is his personality nice? Like, is he fun to hang out with? Or
Can we play a game?
yeah, we can play
I'm
games.
going to say a word, and you have to say it slightly louder. Risotto. 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 Risotto! 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 Risotto!
Risotto.
Welcome back to Hearthstone Grandmasters. We are in our 5th and final match of Saturday, which means 6 more tomorrow afterwards. I'm Nathan, that's Admirals and more. I'm joined by Simon Sottle-Welch. And right now, Jarla boasts a 1-0 lead over Bunnyhoppor in this set, where the 2 leaders of Division B are fighting it off to find out who's going to claim that #1 spot.
Yes, indeed. Before we get any further into this, there is a point of clarification from an earlier match that we should cover. My fault almost entirely. I did the maths and did it incorrectly. The complete tie scenario that I talked about with Casey and Fino is not real. I just made an error in the calculations. In fact, Fino is already 100% in that relegation spot at the end of the season. He cannot catch Psycho. It's just a double point to the tiebreaker thing. Very boring that I just failed to account for when I calculated. And so unfortunately, that was an exit interview for Fino potentially on his side. But right now, the battle for first is much more important between Bunnyhoppor and Jarla.
I feel like you really hit the emphasis on battle. I like the British pronunciation of T's. It's very poignant.
It is, or it's either that or it's very lazy. Like if I let it slip and just, you know, talk as I would talk off camera, it's actually very subtle a lot of the time.
I think that you think that, but that's not true.
It is.
Perhaps when I'm not around. I don't notice it. I notice you saying the T a lot. I think it's quite cool.
In the light's name.
Decent opener for Jarla as he now moves over to Priest and Bunnyhoppor on the signature Shaman. He picked up his first game loss with it last week. He has managed to overcome this matchup a number of times.
He has indeed. It was the hands of Pavel, I believe, that handed him his first defeat on the Shaman. Pavel then jumped on interview and said that it was an achievement that he felt was equal with his World Championship victory. Yeah, he didn't say that. He said quite the opposite.
Yes. He said quite the opposite.
All right, so what if we inner fire?
Not even kidding. I don't think that's a bad idea. Evil Totem is like the scariest thing you face down as Priest.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, please don't have Kobold
In the
Lackey.
light's name.
It's one extra lackey for your inner fire in almost all reasonable worlds. Is that worth it?
I think it's the potential it represents. If you look at it on a card-for-card basis, no. But if you look at it on a how Jarla actually wins the game basis, sometimes yes. With Psychopomp in hand, I would say I want to get a Stranglehold on the board. I want to force the resources from Bunnyhoppor and follow up with Psychopomp and try to close from there.
Yeah, I like it. It makes sense to me.
Now, if Jarla didn't have Psychopomp in hand, that makes me curious. Like, what other cards would prompt such an aggressive play?
I think most things that play to a strong curve here would suggest that you do that. Like, I am very much a play your cards gamer when I'm playing Priest. It's just if you spend your mana efficiently through the first 4 or 5 turns, the things you do are so much more powerful than the things your opponents do that you've usually come out to an advantage. So, you know, if this was Blademaster Circle of Healing, if it was Nephesset, if it was Tolvir Circle of Healing, if it was Cleric Circle of Healing, like any of those things kind of suggest that just, you know, avoid the disaster. Your hand is good.
Yeah. I mean, it looks to me super weird to grant one attack and then go in, but it signifies...
Yeah, don't think of it as granting one attack. Think of it as kill an evil totem, and then it becomes a lot more interesting.
Sure, but you're watching it grant one attack.
Yeah.
You know, human perception is the thing.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what else is a thing. Circle of Healing onto your injured Tolvir and bash for 7 while Bunnyhoppor is overloaded for 1 on turn 3. Bad news. That inner fire for 1 attack may have completely changed the landscape.
Yep. And the 2/6 was kind of the absolute nut draw in that situation as well to pay it off when Bunny responds with a 2/1.
Yep.
Injured Blademaster even more mana efficient there, but just probably not as good because it cost you a Light Warden into the equation.
There's a lot of draws that were strong there, though. Beaming Sidekick. Power Word Shield. Heck, even a Wild Pyromancer was pretty darn strong. You just circle and bash face.
Yeah. Nothing. Yeah, you're not wrong.
Extra arms.
There is little time.
Topsy-Turvy would have been the funniest one. Would you have Topsy the Sludge Slurper in a tank?
Yeah, probably.
You use the inner fire that way, I mean.
Yep. So does Jarla just want to play his curve here? Sacrifice a Light Warden, bring it back?
Well, what other options do you have? I mean, you definitely are attacking this turn. So that tells me you're running a Light Warden in. Because I cannot imagine bumping with the 2/6 first.
Nope. Didn't draw a 2-drop, which would have made, a 1 or 2-drop, I guess, which would have made the heal more exciting.
So for Jarla now, it's the difference between clearing off in consideration to Wasp, and then the additional stats on board versus the Acolyte of Pain draw.
It's also the consideration of the additional stats on board versus the mind control tech opportunity for the opponent.
Ah.
In which case, suddenly Acolyte of Pain starts to get more interesting.
2 copies of Mind Control Tech in Bunnyhoppor's list. Smells like Acolyte of Pain to me. Okay, so if you're going to make that bump, that's definitely a heal turn then, because you cannot let Sandstorm Elemental just like kill your major threat at this point.
Right, and you can start to piece that all together, right, where he doesn't want to play into Mind Control Tech, so he rules out the Psychopomp. So then he looks at the turn, face up, and he's like, well, I leave this board that's like very weak to Wasp, so I have to double trade into the Lackeys. Yikes, if I double trade into the Lackeys, I have to heal because then I'm weak to Sandstorm Elemental. So the only question that you then have to ask at the end of the turn is it correct to play around all of those cards all of the time? And I think it's fine in this scenario because he's just very comfortable in how far ahead he is right now.
It's so weird how much you have to go through to land on trade your stuff and heal.
Yeah.
I hope you like my invention.
Ooh.
Does make it feel like a evil totem kind of turn.
Bunnyhoppor has
Little time.
expressed interest before in rolling taunts, but he's not isolating the attack, so I don't think that's an option.
Right.
Oh boy. The immediate thing that came to my head was if you're interested in playing around Wasp still, that Divine Spirit can protect the Light Ward in that instance.
Yes.
I must consider.
But if you want the card draw, then that would be the Acolyte. If Bunnyhoppor wants to Wasp, he has to have a Lackey in play. Acolyte gets to farm that.
Sure. Could also just do both.
I must consider.
How interested are we in healing? Not that interested.
I want to draw cards more than I want to push 2 extra damage this turn, personally.
Yes.
So I want to have that Acolyte of Pain in play, and I do like this Divine Spirit to play around Wasp idea. That makes sense to me.
Ooh. Jarla says no thank you. If you would like to Wasp either one of these, go ahead, take some damage.
Okay. No Mogu. I think Mogu was a incredibly good draw for Bunnyhoppor that turn.
Oh, is that what Jarla perhaps reacted to?
Mogu right now would cost 3 just with Voltaic Burst, Lackey, Weaponized Wasp in play. That's 4 extra minions, so the Mogu would then cost 0. So could he do it the other way? He can do it the other way, right? He can play the Mogu first and the Lackey last and get the Witchy Lackey come down. But then, no, then the Wasp wouldn't activate, so it wouldn't quite line up perfectly.
Science, fool.
So he could burst Mogu Lackey? Maybe. But you made a good point previously about this Acolyte of Pain, that if the Wasp punish happens on his Light Warden, he gets the upside of getting to farm this Lackey with his Acolyte of Pain. Pyro is the draw.
Also very interesting.
Fairly sure we start with draw a card this turn.
Well, so if you're going to Pyro Divine Spirit...
I wonder.
Are you going to Pyro Divine Spirit?
Well, that's the question, right? So if you're going to do that, can something like Power Word Shield do something even better?
What if you suicide your Acolyte and then play Psychopomp Divine Spirit so you still only have 3 minions to play? Maybe get the Acolyte to come back from the Psychopomp that way.
2 Light Wardens and Acolyte of Pain would have been the pool.
Yep.
Ah, golly, these turns are tough. So this is telling me Wild Pyro Divine Spirit onto 2/6, and he's going to clear off the Wasp sometimes. I'm curious if it's clear the Wasp or push.
I mean, this draw has a big impact on that.
There's no lackeys left on... Ooh. Wait, 4 minions, though.
Oh, yeah.
That's clearly been a concern of Jarla's the entirety of the game.
Yep. It's very spooky. Which does make me wonder about the sequencing, maybe, because maybe then you were trying to go like Pyromancer into Spell into throw your Acolyte into the 3/3 just to get it off the board so you can develop more.
Well, it'd just be a multi-turn setup at this point, right? Where you're taking extra card draw for the sake of developing slower.
Yeah.
But the developing slower is accomplishing the same game plan as the trading off does, except you just don't draw as many cards.
Right.
There's so much technical play. Wow, for Bunnyhoppor, it's
There is little time.
just do I die this turn. Not really any read on the hand range except for perhaps one of the cards. Oh boy. That Acolyte is drawing so many cards.
This turn is, again, incredibly hard in terms of where you heal versus where you shield versus do you want a Nephicet in play at the start of the turn? The fact that the Pyro and the Acolyte aren't necessarily positioned next to each other make that super awkward in terms of drawing multiple cards.
Yeah, I was thinking...
having a Nephicet in play at all, like we're back in Mind Control Tech world, which Jarla is religiously playing around this game.
Yeah, my thought was the Ritualist Injured Blade Master was one of the follow-up potentials, or that it's Cleric Fuel.
Right.
So that means spread the buffs. Binds Cleric.
Sorry, did you say Cleric Fuel? Is that what you said?
So the question now is, when is Cleric Fuel? Because you're out of spells at this point, so...
Throw away your Acolyte.
Yep.
This thing has just been annoying me for a couple of turns right now. I just want it off the board so I can play more powerful cards.
And trade off the Wild Pyro.
Yep.
Wait, that doesn't trade it off.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, and Jarla knows it.
Slip up.
Had to trade first for one less card. Bunny now has a 1 in 4 for the big one. If he gets the big one, Voltaic Burst, Sandstorm Elemental.
Well, what's the alternative, though?
I don't know. What is the alternative, Admirable?
Well, I don't know. He's digging pretty deep on this.
It's Bunnyhoppor. He digs pretty deep on everything.
But it's the posture. His posture changed and everything. Was that just, oh, I know I'm going to have to mind control tech, so let's figure out all the other outcomes while I have time?
I wonder.
Well, double Sandstorm Elemental doesn't seem like a real thing.
Nope.
Barista doesn't seem like a real thing.
Nope.
Voltaic Burst into 2 legendaries.
You could be desperate enough.
Engaging TC-130 until dislocated.
Yeah,
Little time.
that was not the good one. Admittedly, in a different deck, Bog Sloshering a Wild Pyromancer sounds kind of fun. In this spot, I don't think Bunnyhoppor is having fun. He's just kind of dying. Step 1, draw cards.
Step 2.
Well, that's it. I mean, it got a lot weaker after step 1.
Yeah.
It's now the time to go in.
I mean, it's a ton of damage this turn.
13 to face is a heaping pile of damage.
Yes, it is. Sets up 2-turn lethal. You still take care of most of the board state.
There's no natural check in Bunnyhoppor's deck.
No Plague of Murlocs, no Earthshock.
There's no Lackey in hand.
There's 1 random spell in hand.
What spell would Bunnyhoppor have held this long? Like, is he holding a tech this long?
That's a good question. So now you forgo the beaming sidekick. 11 sets up the 2-turn lethal anyway. You're not vulnerable to second mind control tech. Yep, seems strong. I like this. Jarla, having made the mistake on the previous turn, was not gonna get stung by the MCT again. Bunny just has to roll the 3 legendaries, needs big taunts and heals. That is not it. Very rarely are you unhappy to see Akali the Rhino. This is one of those games.
You win this one.
2-0 for Jarla over Bunnyhoppor, moves up to 9-4 on the season and claims the first place spot in a head-to-head battle between the 2 division leaders.
Yeah, he is now in sole possession of that first place spot, having broken the records between the 2 of them. I think those 2, it kind of goes without saying when they're the top 2 players in the division, but I think they have been the 2 players who have impressed the most with their play as well. And there's been 1 or 2 fortunate spots for each of them, because of course there will be in a card game, but I think time after time, week after week, you know, they've been we've been impressed with the way that they've navigated through matchups. Matchups in particular where, you know, popular opinion would say they're unfavored. You know, we look at Bunny's Shaman play versus Priest, being, you know, particularly inspired in certain positions. We look at the way that Jarla's dug himself out of Holy Wrath Paladin matchups where he's been up against it as well. I think they've been the 2 strongest performers. I think that's a very fitting way to end the day where we've had a lot of heartache and misery and drama, is to celebrate 2 of the best players that we've had in the division.
And so let's go ahead and talk to Jarla in an interview. Jarla, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hello, guys.
Hello, and congratulations on this win. You now claim the sole possessor of the first placed spot in the division. Talk to me about this matchup and some of the spots that you found particularly interesting.
About Shaman versus Priest, yeah, basically I wasn't very happy about my opener, Double White Warden. He went like coin totem. If he had like Cobalt, lucky game would probably end at that point. But then I top decked the 2/6 and I just got game, and from there I just snowballed. I messed up at like turn 7. I wasn't happy about that. I just roped it out and couldn't find the correct line. So I'm not very happy about that. But overall, I think this matchup is like 60% for Priest. So it's not that bad for Shaman, but I think as Priest you have small advantage in this particular matchup.
So I just want to make sure the part you weren't happy with, you didn't want to heal the Pyro and have it survive after the attack, so
Yeah,
it got mind control tech trait?
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to play around MC tech, then I messed up on the rope.
So obviously we've been dealing with a lot of relegation and bottom of the table stuff today, and some playoff qualification here and there as well. Obviously this was a battle for first in your group. Like, is it a good feeling to be up there at the top of the group, like looking down at everyone else, kind of struggling to save their seasons at the last moments?
Yeah, I'm super happy to be first, but I'm still like super nervous before every match, even though it was just for first seed. There wasn't like a relegation on the line. So if I was in, for example, Orange's shoes, I don't know, I would feel way worse probably. But still, I was super nervous, even though going into this matchup.
So what do you do to help kind of calm your nerves and refocus? Because while you've been visibly very thoughtful, and at times it looks like you're a bit irked, your play has been spot on, I think, pretty much throughout.
Yeah. So what helps me? I think I'm like Bunnyhoppor said in his interview that he's roping like the first turns just to keep him calm. So I think I'm like at the same boat as him. So if I rope, I make sure what am I doing? It's correct, and I just calm myself and try to focus on the match, not like on the other stuff around. Just be in the match and try to keep my nerves in.
I kind of want to look forward to playoffs at this point. You're locked in for that position, and y'all are going to be thrown for a loop with the patch coming in and wild cards being introduced. How much thought have you put into what your decks are going to look like in the following week?
Not much yet. I have like few ideas, but I'm not sure about them yet. We will have to see when it comes out and we get to test it more. And from there, we will decide what's good, what's not. Like maybe like players will bring some super bad decks because we are not gonna be sure if it's good or not yet. And it should be fun for at least for people watching.
And then final question for you is kind of reflecting on the season overall. You've stood at a pretty strong record throughout. You've been neck and neck with Bunnyhoppor fighting for first place. I'm curious on your thoughts. What do you feel like some of your major strengths and some of your weaknesses have been throughout the season?
Yeah, I think my play was overall good this season. Compared to last season, I think I messed up more in last season than this season. I'm not very happy about my last week, like the match versus Psycho, that was just sad, but the match versus Fino, I think I was supposed to win the decider match if I choose like different lines. It was Paladin versus Priest. If I had like option to go timeout into Pyro coin shrink ray, and that just wins on the spot. And what I ended up doing was like 50-50 versus Psycho Pump, and he got exactly Blade Master, so I threw the game for sure. But overall, I'm happy about this season, and yeah, hopefully I can secure my spot at BlizzCon. That's like my dream, to make it to Worlds. Last year I was like top 4 in points. The year before I came second. So yeah, the goal is to make Worlds or Global Finals.
I think you've done an awful lot towards that goal. Congratulations for being on top of the group, Jarla. I hope you have a great day.
Thanks. See you guys.